help me welcome our next conversation, where we are honored to have key leaders from the Federal Communications Commission for a timely and important conversation about the future of communications policy. From broadband deployment and spectrum strategy to media regulation and cybersecurity, the decisions made at the FCC will help shape the next era of innovation and connectivity. Please join me in welcoming FCC Commissioner Anna Gomez in conversation with Russ, Hanser, SVP, General Counsel, and Chief Legal Officer of NCTA, as they explore the Commission's agenda and its impact on the future of broadband, spectrum, and connectivity. Please give them a warm round of applause.
Hello, hello. I guess this is working. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Commissioner Gomez, it's a real pleasure to have you here with us at SCTE at the Continuum stage. You have been a leader on our issues for a long time with really unmatched experience in both the private and public sectors. I don't want to say how long I've known you, but it's been a while, and we've known each other in many capacities. So, with so much innovation going on all around us, your perspective is especially critical for us to understand how we as industry can best interface with the federal government and work together to achieve our shared objectives. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start off by saying the Commission has seen a lot of change in the past year, and I'm curious what it's like for you and what has surprised you the most about moving from a world in which there was a 3-2 commission where you were a majority commissioner to a world where it's a 2-1 commissioner and you are the sole minority commissioner.
Well, I certainly wasn't expecting to have only 3 of us on the commission. And it has been a transition to go from majority to minority. I am now in a position where the most power I have is in the power of my dissent. But in terms of how I work with my colleagues, it really has not changed. I have a very good relationship with both the chairman and Commissioner Trustee, who I understand you're speaking to next.
See her next.
And they understand my positions. And when I need to speak out against something on which I don't agree at the Commission, I do so. And I continue to work with them to the greatest extent that I can.
That's great. So let's turn to some of the issues on which you will be and have been working with them. Broadband is an issue of great importance to our members and to others. Cable companies and other companies spend literally billions of dollars annually to deploy broadband, to improve their networks, to bring them to places where they haven't been before. From your perspective, what can the Commission do and what kind of policies can be enacted to help ensure that innovation and investment continue to flourish?
So I believe that we need affordable broadband for everyone everywhere. And I am very saddened that we lost the Affordable Connectivity Program. It was our best program to close the gap for consumers, and millions of households have had to make the very difficult choice between paying for utilities, for example, and paying for broadband, which has become as important as electricity or water to consumers. So I think it's very important for the Commission to continue to pursue affordability. I'm also very concerned about what's happening with the BEAD program over at NCTA. I call it a race to the bottom, where the only thing that matters now is how much the deployment costs. And I think it's penny wise, pound foolish. I think that what concerns me is that we are going to incentivize deployment of technologies that are not going to meet the demand and are going to leave some communities behind, particularly as this administration pursues a policy of becoming the world leader in artificial intelligence. I don't want users to be left out of the AI world. Everything is going to be AI. And having that broadband connection is going to matter all the more, not just for students, but for everyone. And I think this administration is, on the one hand, pushing to become global leaders in AI, while on the other hand, not ensuring that all communities will actually be able to benefit from it.
So with respect to connectivity, another area that's very important to our members is spectrum policy. And you've had a lot of experience in that area. We and our companies rely on unlicensed spectrum to provide Wi-Fi, which fixed broadband providers of all sorts rely on to get very high-speed content to people in their homes. What it means to bring connectivity to the home has changed over time, with most homes having literally dozens sometimes of connections within the home, multiple people watching video streams and computing and gaming and so on. At the same time, our companies rely on shared licensed spectrum to provide service via CBRS to serve tribal lands, university campuses, factory floors, and more. You have championed the successful US defense of 6 gigahertz band in international fora against adversaries who have a different vision for that band. And you've also spoken about the importance of having shared licensed spectrum as part of the conversation. Now the Commission and NCTA are faced with the OB3A. That's OBBBA for some people and one big beautiful broadband bill act for others. I'm going to call it OB3A. Anyway, whatever you call it, this bill directs NTIA and FCC to identify 800 new megahertz for licensed commercial use, which puts some potential pressure on the system. So I'm curious how you see the future, especially of unlicensed and shared licensed approaches.
Yeah. So it's going to be quite a challenge finding 800 megahertz between the FCC and NTIA. Let's make that point. And I really appreciate that you said that we successfully argued for the 6 gigahertz band at the WRC. That seems to be lost in the ether now. But number one, unlicensed has been such an important licensing policy, or non-licensing policy, however you want to call it, spectrum policy for our country. It has led to amazing innovations, and we are global leaders because we have really championed unlicensed uses. And I'm continually amazed at how many companies have used that innovation and really ingenuity to enter markets and to succeed on a competitive basis, which leads us to CBRS. CBRS is a fascinating example of sharing and how companies can succeed in entering markets just by finding it within themselves to create a service that directly competes against incumbents. I think it's very important that we protect that. I realize that it's one of the bands that some are targeting for some type of reallocation, but we need to keep in mind that companies have spent billions of dollars to create a business that is succeeding in the market right now, and in some places is one of the few ways that you are reaching communities. But as you mentioned, it's being used for private uses, it's being used for public uses, it's being used at schools, it's being used to compete directly against the nationwide providers, and I think it's very important that we recognize that in whatever decisions that we take.
Thank you. Keeping up a little bit with that theme, so one of your many public roles was helping lead our preparation for WRC 2023. And given that background, curious what you think we can do to best prepare for WRC 27, both because it looks like we may have to once again defend 6 gigahertz from adversaries who have different designs and a preference for command and control systems, and just more generally, what should we be doing, or how can we best defend our interests next year? No, 2 years from now.
Right.
27.
27, yes. I have so much respect for the people who do World Radio Conference and ITU work, because it never ends. So we finished WRC23, and immediately we had to get to work on the agenda for WRC27. It really requires a lot of dedicated resources, and we all need participation, both from the government agencies, which really need to make sure that they have the resources to prepare, and from industry and civil society also to be strong participants, because our adversaries are staffed. They are staffed everywhere. And it is very, very important that we be present for every preparatory meeting, every working group meeting, so that we can be active. The other thing that is really important is we need to engage in diplomacy, and we need to continually build up those relationships. Our elimination of our soft power internationally is a real problem. We are losing the benefit of our support of other countries through programs like USAID in fora like at the ITU for the WRC. So that is going to make it even harder to compete against our adversaries, who absolutely see a opportunity to jump in and gain the hearts of other delegates on which we normally can rely for purposes of winning at the WRC. So there.
Yeah. So that, I guess, is the process side of the question. I want to ask the substance side of that similar point. Again, you've had multiple government roles, but you've also represented clients in the private sector. You have as I said, an unmatched wealth of experience here. And given that experience, taking all of those opportunities you've had into view, what are the best ways, substantively, to ensure American competitiveness, American success, especially in a world where it increasingly feels like technological supremacy is a key, or maybe even the key, to geopolitical success and dominance?
Well, I'm going to go back again to the importance of our relationships and engaging in this diplomacy. I forgot to mention Doreen Bogdan-Martin. Yep. She is the current Secretary General of the ITU, and I think it's really important for us to support her because our adversaries will be looking to get as much control of these institutions as possible so that they can win in this geopolitical war.
Very good. So you have made the First Amendment a cornerstone of your sort of approach at the FCC, and curious about how this keystone affects your thinking about a range of issues, but I have a special interest in regulation of cable systems and cable networks.
Well, just to be clear, I did not choose the First Amendment as to be part of what I focus on. It has been foisted upon me by this administration and its campaign of censorship and control. I think it's really important that the FCC refrain from engaging in regulating lawful content. And certainly we have a different relationship with the cable companies even than the broadcast companies, because broadcasters get spectrum, and we do regulate that in the public interest. Cable, we regulate in different ways, right? We regulate technology, we regulate for consumer protection type of issues. So the First Amendment will always form the basis of anything that I believe approaches censorship, which is prohibited by the Communications Act, and of course by the First Amendment. I think having a multiplicity of voices is important, and cable does provide that avenue as well.
So let's turn to video service while we're talking about cable systems. As you know, cable service, as defined in the law, is subject to a raft. Hello? Cable testing. Someone doesn't want me talking about cable regulation. So cable services are subject to a raft of regulations, most of which stems from 1992 or sort of that general time frame. Back then, most families had a pretty limited range of options for video service. They had three major television broadcast networks. They had generally one MVPD, one generally cable provider, and then they had the local blockbuster video store, right? They had VHS cassettes. That system, excuse me, that marketplace has changed very dramatically since then. Fewer than a third of households take traditional cable service. People get their video, some from broadcast, some from cable, but many from Netflix and Disney Plus and other streamers. Do you want me to take the hand mic? Thank you. Netflix, Disney Plus, streamers, lots of people rely on YouTube and TikTok. It's a completely different marketplace. And my members look and say, why are we subject to all these regulations when the entities that we're competing against are not? So I'm curious, what are your views on how that disparity should be addressed, if at all? Is it appropriate in your view? Is it something the Commission can or should be working to eliminate?
So I believe that the Commission should be serving consumers. And to the extent that regulations inure to the benefit of consumers, and I think it is something we should look at. At the same time, it does make sense to look at rules, the marketplace, and determine what is still necessary to protect consumers and to ensure the consumer benefit, given everything that we're seeing before it. The thing that I believe, though, is any changes that we propose to make, we should do via a notice and comment period.
And is that a suggestion that there's been deregulation, significant deregulation outside of that process?
Well, I am not a fan of the direct final rule process because I believe that if the Commission adopted rules through notice and comment, then it should eliminate rules through notice and comment procedures. I'm concerned that we are rushing to eliminate rules under some vague standard without giving any opportunity really of notice and comment, and instead eliminating them up front and then giving parties 20 days to come back and say, well, no, we really need these rules. And that's what I'm alluding to. I don't think that's a good process.
So we've raced through my questions for you, but I want to give you an open-ended question and ask whether there's anything we haven't discussed that is of particular importance to you that you wanted to take this opportunity to highlight to our gathered friends.
Well, thank you for that question. You asked me the First Amendment question, and I do have strong concerns about this administration's actions. So I'm always happy to get the platform to be able to talk about them. This administration has engaged in this campaign to bring all broadcasters to heel. And really it affects cable in addition to it affects broadcasters because some of the targets are in fact themselves cable companies. And I think it should concern everyone. I think it should concern everyone because we need to preserve our First Amendment because we need it to have a vibrant democracy. But I want to make sure people really have a good picture of what it is that's happening because it is throughout the administration. It's not just the threats against broadcasters. It's not just Jimmy Kimmel. It is not just the FCC investigating broadcasters because they don't like the content of their broadcasts and their news editorial decisions. It is going after universities because of their curricula. It is clearing our national museums of corrosive ideology, and corrosive is the administration's word, not mine. It is going through the national parks to eliminate history. It is going after law firms because of who they represent and what they represent. It is disbanding unions. It is going after whistleblowers. Now we're seeing this administration's enemies list prosecuted. This is all a violation of the First Amendment. And the thing I want everybody to keep in mind is it's the process, not the outcome. Because this administration knows that it does not have the legal authority, the constitutional authority, or the ability to take action But if they make people suffer for what they say or who they platform, it will lead to self-censorship. There will come a point where this administration no longer needs to issue threats. Instead, we will have that chilling effect that we so worry about. So it's very important that everyone push back, that the corporate parents stop thinking just about their bottom line and think about the future of our democracy if we allow this administration to continue with these actions. So I really appreciate the fact that you're giving me this opportunity to say this, because it is very important.
Well, whoever my successor is who will be interviewing you next year appreciates that I asked it as well, because I opened the door to that person's accession. But well, maybe close, but to pull on the other thread. So when you started in this field and when I started in this field, people always said, oh, these aren't really partisan issues. They break down on other lines. And, that started to change a while back. It didn't just change, but it's, as your last answer indicates, it has changed. I'm curious where you see opportunities for collaboration and cooperation with the chairman and commissioner trustee, and where are the areas where, behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, you're all working together with some common principles.
I keep saying I really would like to stop talking about the First Amendment and instead talk about some of our more core missions under the Communications Act. Yes, we have actually plenty of areas that we can collaborate in, and we do. Spectrum is one of them. The chairman and I actually very frequently talk about spectrum, and they're good discussions, and I think we can continue to have them. Consumer protection. We have our monthly robocall items, and we all share the goal of ensuring that consumers are protected from fraudulent and frankly irritating robocalls and texts. Internationally, at WRC, we're one USA, and we can absolutely work together on that. Public safety, national security. We're all concerned about cyber. We're all concerned about making sure that public safety has what it needs to do its job. So there's plenty of opportunities for us to work together, and we do, in fact, have those conversations. And I'm happy for them, and I would love to stop talking about the First Amendment if I could.
Sounds good. I think maybe we'll close on that high unifying note. So please all join me in thanking Commissioner Anna Gomez for joining us.
Thank you.